on? This is Brandon.
Hey, this is Dave.
And this is Joshua.
And this is John.
And this is Toby.
And this is Zelda, and you are now tuned in to PVD Horror.
So thanks everybody for joining us. We are joined here today with the Addams family. So thank you guys for joining, first of all. I really appreciate it. And I also want to say we had the pleasure of checking out your amazing new film, Hellbender, and we freaking love it. So I can't wait to get into this interview so people can learn a little bit more about you, because you guys are freaking interesting. So
thank you.
Yeah. So
yeah, thanks so much for having us. We love you guys, and we're just excited that you invited us to be on your show.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I'll just kick it off with the most notable thing that we noticed right away. It says the Addams family, which is a really iconic name. And we know that there's a story behind Wonder Wheel. If you guys want to get into that, that's cool too. And we know there's Wonder Wheel Productions, but we were wondering if you were going to run with Wonder Wheel and keep that, or are you going to run with the Addams family for now on, now that you're hooked up with Shudder and such?
A great question. Really great question. I'm going to start the answer with, I asked Toby to marry me on the Wonder Wheel. And part of the reason was because we were fucking broke. And there was no way I could afford like a ring or any of that fancy stuff. So I just figured I would get the biggest ring in New York City, and that was the Wonder Wheel. And it's always going to be there. So I figured that would be a safe bet. And so that's why I asked Toby to marry me. And so she said yes. And so the Wonder Wheel holds a sweet place in our heart.
Yeah, I guess Wonder Wheel is kind of like the business entity, the production company. But as a identity, a filmmaking family, we're definitely the Addams.
That's cool. So when I first heard about you guys, I was blown away by how creative you all were. It's so cool to see a family making films together. How did this all start?
Well, in 2008 to 10, we were living in Los Angeles, and John had been on a kind of rock and roll reality TV show where he was like this stunt man, kind of jackass type, and it was really fun, and he loved being on sets. And I came from the acting world, but when I hit LA, it just really kind of tanked, and I wasn't getting work. And finally, we just decided to take the bull by the horns and make our own films, And so we got an old RV, and we took off that year. Zelda was 6 and Lulu was 11. And we made our first film, Rumble Strips, and we were just totally hooked.
Yeah.
We didn't know what the fuck we were doing, and that was a good thing. Because if we had, we probably wouldn't have done it. We would have felt too pressured. In this case, ignorance was totally our bliss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty wild because, I tried looking like back catalog of films that you guys have a number of films. I think we were saying it right before you guys came in. It's like 6 films in total, I believe, at least, that are available.
Now it's 7 with Hellbender. We got 7 now.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because you kind of can watch the progression for all of you. Like Zelda, not to embarrass you, but there was one film where you look super young, and and then I watch Hellbender and I'm like, wow, you're going to be a demon later. That's awesome. I was just curious, what do you guys find to be some of the difficulties and benefits of working within the family?
It's interesting. We always say that the advantages totally outweigh the disadvantages because we're working on such a small scale. So it's pretty easy to just go out and do anything, we can be eating breakfast and then it's like, all right, let's go out and shoot a scene. It's snowing right now. It's perfect. So we'll go out in the backyard and shoot a scene, come right back in, put it into the computer, check it out, see if it's good. And if it's not, we'll go out and shoot it again. And we have the advantage of, having dinner together. That's like a perfect business meeting, talking about what we want our next movie to be about. What do you guys think?
I think it's just one big advantage because we do enjoy hanging out together. It's a great way for us to be outside together. It's a great way for us to drive in the car together. It's really fun. We're all kind of equals in the process. And, we don't know any other way. It's not like we ever were like in the industry. So when people say, oh, isn't it hard because you don't have a lighting guy or girl or whatever? And it's like, well, we wouldn't know what that would be like anyway. So we don't really know what our disadvantages are because I don't know. This is what we've always done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's a disadvantage that you don't like have a big budget as a family. And it's true, we don't have a big budget or anything, but what I like about that is that it forces us to like work with what we have. And I think the result of that is really beautiful, like working with nature in its rawest form and working with flat light, which I think is the best lighting that you can use over artificial lighting. Like all the disadvantages turn into advantages.
So now you guys released 7 films under the Wonder Wheel Productions. What was it that made you transition into horror from the last 2 films?
Toby was working on a script after our 4th film, and John and I were kind of hanging around, twiddling our thumbs like, oh God, what do we do right now? And I remember I was, I think, like maybe 13, and I went up to him, I was like, hey, like, let's make a movie. It's winter. I want to just kill a bunch of dudes. Wouldn't that be like a great story about a young girl killing a bunch of dudes? And he was like, that sounds fantastic. So we wrote like this timepiece, and it was just beautiful. And that was the first time that we ever shot in winter. And that's where we discovered our true love for shooting in winter, but also our love for horror. We got into some great horror film festivals and just learned that we love the horror crowd and the world that you can make with horror.
Yeah, we really learned one of the greatest things about horror is that you have artistic freedom. There's no rules. The horror crowd, the horror audience, they're up for anything. They just want entertainment. They want art coming their way, and so you're allowed to break all the rules. It's a great medium to work in if you love having fun.
Yeah, I think like we're a kind of super happy family, and so somehow it makes sense doing horror because just feeling the opposite of horror somehow makes it A, more fun, but B, it's cool, kind of cool to play the opposite of what like in the same, I always say, oh man, the comedians make the best like sad people, and really nice people make the best villains, and vice versa and stuff. And so I think for us it's kind of it really works that we're kind of happy in real life, because then we can kind of like exorcise all those whatever dark feelings we have through art.
Awesome. Because we always talk about it too. Like me, Dave, and Josh, we all have all different tastes in horror. I'm a big slasher fan. Josh, he likes really low budget films. And Dave, he likes the psychological horrors. So it's now with today, you can go any way with horror. And I just think that's awesome, So keep doing it.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that's something that we really love about the horror crew is like, you're 3 guys, you love 3 different aspects of horror, and they all are really interesting. Like the movie that we're working on now has more of a kind of, it's not a slasher, but it has more body horror. It's more like physically violent. Like Hellbender's more emotionally violent. It does have some physical violence in it, but it's more a drama about a daughter and a mother, and like add that dark magic to it, and it becomes pretty intense. And so it's really cool about horror that you can explore different aspects of it. I agree with you 100%. That's what's so cool about it.
Don't be fooled by that horror community, though. We got some elitists in there too. So I know for the most part, everyone's really cool, but you'll run into a couple that will be like, but for the most part, the horror community is pretty great, though. It's like, just the love and the passion that everybody has for horror movies is like, I don't know if there's another genre that really has this kind of following. Maybe sci-fi. But.
We notice the elitism, but the thing is about the elitism is it actually happens like there's slasher elitists, like, and there's psychological elitists. Each little subgroup has their elitist crew. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's people who watch Hellbender and like, that sucked. Like, that movie was not scary at all. And you know what? So be it. That's cool. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We talk about everything being positive in the community, and how everyone in horror supports each other. How did it feel having horror icon Robert Englund tell the world to check out one of your films?
We didn't sleep for days.
It was
Go ahead, Z.
Yeah, it was just incredible. Like, we read it and it almost didn't feel real. Like, we didn't really know how to act. And then a day later, it started sinking in and we were like, whoa, wait a second, that just happened.
Yeah.
We've had great support from really cool people. Like Patton Oswalt also has pumped us on a couple occasions. And it's really like, wow, what great humans. And that is ultimately what we've really enjoyed about the horror community is they are very inclusive and open for stuff and supportive.
And once you get in our good graces, we'll support everything you do, though. That's another thing. Like, you know, you see it all the time with like the celebrities that go to the conventions. Like any film they make, we'll go out and watch because, you know, we feel like that connection with them and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
That's so
The
cool.
family. It's
Yeah,
so
and I feel like they're just very supportive, and want to see what you do next. And then I think they also, you know, you have a mixture. You have the people who are like, well, I want to see what you can do with a big budget. But then you also have the people who are like, oh, I just want you to stay just the way you are, making film for $500.
Yeah.
You know, but either way, that they're going to support you and let you kind of, I think, accept that you need to grow or evolve or try other things, which is a safe environment to be an artist.
sure.
Now, because Dave had let us know before we kind of like reached out, like you guys were in Rue Morgue magazine. So Dave, if you want to touch on that, like how you brought like all the
Oh
information.
yeah. So I mean, that's one of my favorite horror publications. I've been following that forever. I saw you guys on the cover and I was like, this looks so freaking interesting. And then I was just telling them today, I picked up Horror Hound yesterday and you guys are in Horror Hound.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you guys are just like making waves and everything. So I mean, that's what has this experience been like for you guys to just be featured and talked about so much?
Horror Hound is the first people that embraced us. We, like Zelda said, we made a 60-minute movie that was more like a super dark poem. And Horror Hound, we got into the Horror Hound Film Festival, and they were just so cool, and their publication was cool to us. And yeah, they're all those organizations are really terrific. You know, that's the difference between, we had made 4 dramas before we made our first horror movie, and it's very hard to get any traction in that world because if you don't have a budget, you don't have a famous director, you don't have a famous star, it's very hard to get eyes on your films. Like, talk about elitist. That world is far more elitist than the horror world. Yeah. And that includes the publications, you know, like Horror Hound, Fangoria, Rue Morgue. I mean, come on. Our minds were blown too when somebody sent us, hey, you're on the cover of Rue Morgue. It was like, what is happening here, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that the film was actually good.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's nice.
Speaking of the $5 horror movies, and I've seen more than any man probably should, and some are good and some are not. So yours was really good. I compliment you, and that's why you're getting so much attention. So congratulations, you know.
Well, thank you
so much.
But it's so funny because it's like me and Dave are usually on social media a lot. Josh usually unplugs himself. He doesn't really pay attention. And so we kind of didn't fill him in about everything about the film. And after he watched it, he goes, oh, it was really good. I said, Josh, did you know that they're actually a family? He's like, what? It's like, yeah, the mom, dad, and the daughters. And so he was just like, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Do you guys like frequent any of the horror film festivals? Are you into any of those?
So Brandon and I have gone up to Salem for a number of years because they have a small film festival there. You know, we used to have the Providence Horror Film Festival, and they did away with that a number of years ago, and now it's kind of been turned into like a hybrid of sci-fi and horror, called, what is it, Vortex Brandon Film Festival.
Yeah. Yep.
So those are like our local ones. So other than that, I've been really venturing out of here. Like conventions is a different thing. Like we'll sometimes travel for those, but for the film festivals, I haven't been to too many others.
There was a couple of underground ones in Rhode Island for a little while too, where people that just like to make films were making them and then just getting together and doing it once a month. But then COVID happened and all that went under. So
Yeah.
Because we love the festivals, and that's where we get to meet a lot of cool people and make a lot of great connections and see a lot of great film. I mean, we love the whole spectrum, the tiny ones that only the locals know about to the bigger ones we've had the luck to be invited to. That's kind of almost like the reason we make films, so we can go to these festivals.
And
Guys,
the crowds of those places are super informed, so you learn a ton. It's like going to a master class. Like, we're making movies, but the audience knows so much fucking more than we do. And they'll reference all this shit, and we'll have to go home. We'll have like 100 movies that we need to watch because it's all been referenced. And they're like, oh, you did this and that. And it's really cool. It's like every festival, like she said, whether there's 5 people or 500, it is a master class because the crowds are so informed about basically horror film and even just film.
Did I see something about Fantasia Film Festival and somebody getting an award there?
Sweet Z.
Did someone get an award? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was I was in shock, honestly. It was crazy that a festival like that acknowledged that. Didn't we also get the music?
She's trying to pass off the shine.
Allow me to brag about my two.
Yeah, I was just going to say, can you tell us the award that Zelda got?
All right, so first we were fortunate enough to be accepted as a competition. We'd never been in the international competition, so we got into Fantasia's Cheval Noir competition, which is fun because Cheval Noir, we've always called Zelda our black horse, our dark horse, and so we got to do that, be in the competition, and then she won best acting, and then John won best editing.
No, I think music or something like best soundtrack. But
yeah, best soundtrack.
A huge compliment. It was like, and Fantasia changed our lives because with The Deeper You Dig, I don't know if you've seen The Deeper You Dig, but that was the first like real horror movie that we made, and we got into there, and they pumped us. Like what's beautiful about something like Fantasia is they pump the big Hollywood films, but they pump us the exact same way. It's not kind of like we're filler. We were like invited to the press rooms. They talked to us. They worked with us. They treated us really well. And it changed our lives dramatically. Don't you think, Z?
Definitely. Like, it's really cool that the horror community in these festivals acknowledge us, because when we were making dramas before, it was incredibly hard to get like any sort of acknowledgement, like if you didn't have Brad Pitt in it. But like you can be a small family making horror movies and people will, want to go out and watch your movies, which is awesome.
So I'm gonna be completely honest. I started to watch Deeper You Dig last night and I didn't finish it, but what I saw of it was intense, and I don't want to give anything away because I think that once people watch Hellbender, they are going to want to go back and watch your previous films. So I don't want to like spoil anything for anyone, but I do encourage people to watch it and also think about what it must have been like to be a dad in the role you had, and in the first like 20 minutes or so, like what I had to witness you do. I was thinking about you as a person acting, and that must have been difficult to do. I'm saying something that makes no sense if you don't watch the movie, so just go watch the movie.
Zelda, what do you think about that?
You know what? Toby, in the editing process, she was having a hard time watching the scenes with me and John in it from a mother's standpoint. But me personally, the daughter, who's kind of going through it in the movie, it was fun shooting it. All the violent things were fun to shoot. But I mean, The Deeper You Dig is a pretty dark movie, and so we kind of wanted to do something more fun with our next one, Hellbender. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that was something that we felt like we love the deeper you dig, and it's interesting because dark stuff makes us laugh. Like when Zelda and I were filming the tub scene, I mean, I think most of the time we had to cut out a lot of giggles because it's funny. Like it is funny when you're making it. It's dark and violent, but there's this strange tiny thread of a line between funny and horrible. And when you're making it, it's funny. But we did feel that the deeper you dig, after the deeper you dig, we really wanted our next film to still be kind of horrible, still have that kind of violence and stuff like that. But we did want it to be more of a fun ride. So, you know, it was a roller coaster that went up and down and had a couple loop-de-loops instead of just once up and then straight to hell, you know, which was the deeper you dig.
So now, what are some of your favorite horror movies, and can you share some of your first experiences with horror?
Absolutely. Toby showed me Carrie at a pretty young age, and you know what, I'm really happy that was my first horror movie. I think there's a lot of actually inspiration in it in Hellbender, but some of my other favorite horror movies are The Descent. We've been talking about that one nonstop recently because we all just rewatched it. And it's just incredible, so claustrophobic, and the dynamics and relationships in that movie are incredible. The effects, the jump scares, everything.
Some pick. Yep.
For me, I got this shit scared out of me at 12 years old. My soccer coach took me to see Phantasm, and it pretty much just ruined my life.
Nice.
And so I definitely had to show my kid, you know, a horror movie when she was young too, so I could try to ruin her life. But Phantasm, ruined my life. But in terms of a masterpiece, I think that The Thing is the greatest horror movie ever made.
For me, I think the first movie that really scared the hell out of me was Halloween. And what year did that come out? 78, 79?
78.
That's right.
So I would have been like 9 or 10 years old, and that one scared the shit out. I for a while I couldn't sleep with the light out, for sure. You know, and then but I love, my favorites are Let the Right One In.
Yeah.
I love The Witch.
Yes.
You know, and I like Basket Case too.
Classic.
You guys just picked the most amazing list of movies ever,
Yeah.
and it's so diverse.
How about you guys? What are your favorites?
Psycho Sisters.
All right.
Oh wait, who said what?
Psycho Sisters.
Oh,
It was called Wave
I'm writing that
Productions.
one, adding that to the list.
Tell them what year, Josh, because if they get the wrong one, they're not going to.
Yeah, this one is by Wave Productions. It was like 96 or 94. It was
I think it was
way back.
94, and
It
IMDb
was
doesn't
94.
recognize it, so that tells you something.
Is it a slasher or what is it?
It's like it's really weird. It's like a rape revenge,
Dumpster fire?
but it's also a slasher. Yeah, the dumpster fire. Come on, Dave. It's about a group of sisters, and they get attacked, and they go like crazy and get revenge. And
Oh, revenge is good.
Revenge is
I love
good.
the title.
it's one of those $5 budgets, but it revolutionized. Like, it was a mail order from the back of the horror catalogs back in the early 90s, and it like revolutionized VHS for the time. Everybody started doing mail orders after that. And
Oh, cool.
Wave Productions, like the first and original mail order horror. So
Brandon, that's great. What's your favorite slasher then, Brandon? You were saying you love slashers.
Yeah, so I'm a big Friday the 13th fan. So
All right.
Jason,
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, and I would go with Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is probably my favorite. I know it's, not the most artistic one, and but I just, that one was the one that kind of like really got me into the genre and kind of hooked me in, I think. And Freddy
that's
just
cool.
in general with the he's in your dreams. He's not in real life. So I love that concept.
Yeah.
I do too. We love that stuff.
Yeah. And we love like all the sequels that, they decide to do something different, like say like people always talk junk to me about liking Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, and and the new beginning, because new beginning, it's not Jason, but the story behind everything, it puts it together, it's really cool. And it's, people are like, oh, well, Jason wasn't even in New York, he was on the boat for most of the time, like, but he's out of the element, he's not on the camp trying different things. So just notice, when you guys find your niche and you do something different, people are not gonna like when you do something different. They stuck to the same thing.
But they will 20 years later. Someone will be like, hey, that was a good film. And then you'll have your backs. We'll be like, we told you this the whole time.
It's so interesting hearing about movies that like totally flopped when they first came out, but then 20 years later they're like loved. Like I think that happened with Jennifer's Body, right? Didn't they hate it at first? And now it's like a cult favorite.
Yep.
Well, that happened with John Carpenter's The Thing too. I mean, it came out, and I think Aliens had happened, or something had kind of happened before, so people were like, "Yeah, it's not so great." And I've heard him say that if he wasn't hit so hard for that, he feels like his career, he would have had a more happy career. I don't see what's wrong with his career. It was great. But he has mentioned the fact that it really stung, that The Thing was kind of like, not accepted when it came out.
Sure. Just because Valentine's Day was, just yesterday, another film that comes to mind is the 2001 film Valentine, which was a slasher. But when it came out, it got a lot of flack because it was so similar to like the Scream kind of like setup, and obviously wasn't, as equal to Scream, in quality, but it was still an enjoyable film. And if it came out at any other time away from Scream, I think people would have like really appreciated it. But now you're seeing this huge wave of everyone kind of saying like, oh, Valentine was actually a really good film, and it's getting like this second life again. So,
well,
that's cool.
Yeah. It's interesting how that can happen, I guess.
It's cool seeing all the eras of film. Like, I feel like there's a lot of like emphasis on folk horror right now. I feel like that's kind of on the ups. That's at least what people are saying.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I've been reading that, but I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of like societal issue reason why like we kind of tend to gravitate to certain types of movies at different times. Like, so I'm sure in a few years they'll be talking about this period of time and why we were into folk horror at this time or whatever. Maybe it's because we were so isolated for a period of time, and then we want to connect back to stories about our past. And
maybe a bunch of new pandemic movies are going to come. If you've seen have any of you seen The Sadness yet?
Not yet. It looks pretty cool.
Keep a lookout. That movie is incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm glad she mentions The Sadness, because so our next movie, we talked about folk horror. Folk horror seems to be the big thing right now, but we've been really interested in the body horror movies. And when we say that, it's not like the fly body horror, but like real body horror, like Sadness. When you see The Sadness, you're gonna be like, good God, I mean, it's freaking violent in a very physical way. Like, I won't even go there. And then we also saw another movie at Telluride Horror Show called The Golden Glove. Have you guys seen The Golden Glove?
No.
Oh, not yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to recommend it, because if you watch it, you're going to be like, that guy's sick. Like, it's a sick movie, and it's dirty, and we loved it. And, and so like, there's aspects of it that we're picking up on, and it's that body horror. Oh, right. Kisses.
Oh,
kisses are good. Oh my God.
So, I love anything. I like to challenge myself, so I'm up for any challenge as far as a movie that's going to gross me out or make me feel terrible. So I actually look forward to that.
Yeah, do The Golden Glove. You wanna be like, and remember, I kind of recommended it and didn't recommend it at the same time.
No, I'm with you. I hear it.
You're gonna walk out feeling like a grease ball, like, oh God, why did I watch that?
And you're gonna smell like cigarettes and schnapps.
Did you guys see Titan?
Yes, I did, and that was crazy.
I thought it was pretty cool, crazy too. Yeah. But I liked it a lot.
Tell me your thoughts. What'd you think?
I thought it was just different because did you see the other film that the director also created, Raw? Yeah, absolutely. So I was telling Dave and Josh about it. They need to check out this one because it's just your head. I still can't process the whole movie yet. Like, I think I have to watch it again and it's still one of the craziest movies I probably seen of the year.
That's really cool. We actually took some inspiration from their other movie, Raw,
Yeah.
in one of the scenes in Hellbender with the finger.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you though on Titan. By the end of it, I was kind of like, okay, that made me really uncomfortable. I never want to scratch my belly again. And it's like, and I don't know what I just saw, but
Yeah.
I damn well know that I've never seen it before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Dave, Josh.
Yeah, I
like
know. I'm
check
like,
it out.
I should have watched this a couple of days ago when you told me about it. Damn.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you guys. So I read that you guys are from the Catskills region of New York, and I'm pretty familiar with the Catskills actually, and the town that you guys are from as well. Just number of road trips, doing some photography and stuff, and just because you guys have like these amazing like rural landscapes over there, and the mountains and everything. And there's this amazing like juxtaposition of like little quaint towns, and then like a lot of like abandonment and decay and stuff like that, which is kind of where more of my photography goes. So I was kind of curious, just thinking about that, and then thinking about Hellbender and like how where you guys are from has influenced the films you make.
Great observation. This is where we're from. It's a very hard place. It's got hard people. It's got hard land. It's always been hard. The people who first settled here, it's just rocky soil, so all the farms kind of fail. It's just a hard place, but it's super beautiful, and the communities around here accept us. Like we're weirdos, but we're their weirdos, and we can kind of run at free will around here. And like in the deeper you dig, we need cops. We get the local cops. We need a deli. We go to the deli and, hey, will you shoot? Yeah, I'll shoot. What time? You know what I mean? It's like there's a very, like, people know what we do here, and they think it's kind of weird, but they also think it's kind of cool. So it all really works out for us. And the nature around here is stunning in a brutal way. So, and especially in the winter, the trees get super dark, and it's got a contrast that's I don't know, it's like really exceptional.
Yeah.
It's exactly like us in Rhode Island.
Well, I mean, we're pretty close, right? I mean, I'm not sure where you are in Rhode Island, because also Rhode Island has the most beautiful cities in the world. Like some of them are just stunning, like over by the coast, and Providence is.
Yeah, we're only about 3 hours away, 2.5 hours depending on what part of the Catskills. So it's not too far.
Okay.
Yep.
So
and we're also those weird guys that everybody knows, and they're like, hey, we don't like what you do, but we appreciate you. We get that a lot. Well, I do. The other two guys, not so much.
Are you in Providence?
Yes.
Yeah, Zelda and I took a trip because she's applied to RISD.
Okay.
Oh, awesome.
She's applied to them this year for college, and we had a great trip there. Oh my God, I loved that city.
Yeah, that area is great, and Providence is amazing because it's small and you can pretty much walk to everything if you like doing that. And we also we complain about traffic if you have your car here. But our traffic is nothing compared to other cities. If you go there, I mean, we complain, but we just like to complain in general. So that's just us.
And that's what PVD stands for. It's Providence, because it's like the airport code. So
right. Flying into PVD.
Yeah, which isn't actually in Providence, our airport. It's actually in an outside town, but we call it Providence anyway.
But it's
we
tiny.
Claim everything. We claim sports teams that aren't even from Rhode Island. So we're diehard Boston fans, and we're not even from Boston. So I guess that's just our nature.
Yeah. If you guys do come down, we'll just hit any one of us up, and we'll give you the tour.
That would be great.
Small, but
hey, do you guys know the guys from Drop Dead?
Yes. Yeah, we're good. We're friends with them. Yes.
Oh, well, tell them I say hi, because I've been in touch with one of the guys there from there, and they're so sweet, and I thought that film was great.
They're the best. We do movie nights at a local brewery we've been doing them for a few years now, usually try to tie in some kind of like charity thing. And they started coming to like our earliest one 3 years ago, actually. And they just showed up at every single one we did. And we all became like, our horror community just became like a family. And it's amazing. And then the whole time they were like filming their movie, and then they finally made it. And we were like, and it's getting big. Yeah, they're going to be on Shudder next month.
Cool.
So yeah,
I can actually be in the film.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
in it?
extra.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you look real closely, I'm way in the back on the bar scene, holding some stranger's hand. And then I had to explain to my wife I wasn't really holding this guy's hand. It just
That's awesome.
But and my wife was like, "How come you didn't like just leave?" That hurts. That hurts.
We'll look for it. It sounds great.
Yeah. So now, is there anything you guys can't do? You also have a band by the name of Hellbender. You have a few songs that are currently streaming. Do you guys have any plans on releasing a full project in the future?
Yeah, we got a soundtrack for Hellbender coming out this spring, I think.
Okay.
And we're pretty happy. And there's 20 songs, so half of them aren't even in the movie, and they're really, really some of my favorite songs.
That's awesome.
So we're pretty jazzed about that.
But it's going to be, we're working with this group called Ship to Shore, and they're going to be releasing it on vinyl, which is insane. We're so excited. And, the songs from Hellbender are going to be in it, but there were a lot of songs that didn't make it in because we couldn't have, every single song in it. And
like every 5 minutes you break and you start doing a band
the
sequence.
entire thing is just a song, yeah. So I'm excited for people to hear that, definitely.
I was so thrown off at the beginning when it went to like the bit, like your first music sequence, because I was like, oh, this is interesting, like this is different. But then I was like, this is so freaking good. Like your music is awesome.
Oh,
I don't know why I was like so thrown off by that, but I was like, because I guess I haven't seen that in a movie where like the people making the film actually make good music too, and they show off both things at once. It was awesome.
Well, that's cool. I mean, we really wanted to throw everybody, like, we thought it would be funny to go from hanging this witch, like a whole group of women, like hanging a witch that just exploded into fire. Like, it's like, kind of like, what the hell is going on here? And there's no explanation. It just starts out with this. And then right into a band in modern times in makeup. We just thought, like, the shock value would be like, at that point, like the people who are going to stay, they're going to enjoy the movie, and the people who leave, they should leave then because they're not going to like the rest of it. So it was kind of like, it was a good way to be like, all right, we're just going to tell you right up front kind of what this is going to be like. If you didn't like this first 3 minutes, you should probably
that's a great point.
Stop watching.
It was interesting, like even from the filmmaker's point of view, when I was watching it, like the juxtaposition between like the intro and then the band scene, I was like, I'm extremely uncomfortable with this. And then I was like, wait, it's good that I'm uncomfortable with this. I want the audience to be uncomfortable too.
Yep. That's awesome.
I wasn't uncomfortable. I thought it was really awesome. And I really like the music. I'm an old school metalhead, so I was like, "Oh, this is even better." I just thought it went up a notch. So, who wrote all the music?
Well, John is sort of the jack of all trades who writes her music, but Zelda's also a drummer, and she contributes a lot to the music as well. Lulu and I kind of just show up and fill in the dots and cross the T's where they need it as backgrounds. But these guys are really.
But John's amazing. He pumps out like 20 songs a day, and he's like, "Hey, check out like this song. This riff I just made," and it's like, well, Jesus Christ, what? And then we just sing on it, and then a song is born. It's really fun.
So you say you're an old school metalhead. I'm an old school hardcore punk, and like the ethic of old school hardcore punk, like bands like Black Flag and Bad Brains and all those bands. Those guys just cranked them out. It's kind of like you get up, you crank out a song. They have, like, if you think about early Black Flag, all those songs are 30 seconds to a minute and a half, and that's it. And Zelda and I started talking about that too. We were like, you know what? We should have like an under 2 minute rule where we are not allowed to write a song that's over 2 minutes. It's got to be 2 minutes or less. And that was really kind of helpful because it really cut all the bullshit off of anything we were doing. And it's something we started cranking out a lot of tunes together.
A lot of record labels have been doing that. Like a lot of big artists, you know, some songs like 3 minutes, and it's like, oh man, I want more of that song. But then it's just like, or you have a transition that'll go into like a whole different song, you know. So it's pretty cool what they're able to do. And then now they're keeping it like you said, Zelda, you wanted more songs on the album, but usually some albums are just like 10 songs on the record now, you know. So,
Right.
But now you can put out more music. You work on more, and then you can keep cranking them out.
And you know, with things like, I mean, modern like culture really is like, I don't think their attention span is getting shorter, but if you think of things like TikTok and YouTube and you know, it's like these media, all these media clips like Instagram films or whatever, they're all very short. So short, compact little tunes are actually kind of smart these days because that's what people seem to kind of have their eyes and ears on.
Fostering ADHD. So, I mean, you gotta keep up with that, right?
Which I have. So it's kind of fine with me. It's like my attention span is fucking short.
Join the club on that one.
I think we're all on that train. I know, like, we'll talk about it. Like, if something doesn't catch us, you know, I'll watch a movie and then like end it and be like, I don't think I actually paid attention to 1 second of that, you know. So something has to catch you in order to keep you locked in.
We have.
Oh, go ahead, Z.
We have like a rule that something has to happen every 7 to 10 minutes, or else like we're not doing something right.
Yeah, that's a good rule. Yeah.
And also we have a rule that it's got to be under 120, like or whatever it is, like
is it
an hour and 20 minutes. It's like, you know, it's like no matter what, like we've had to cut things out because it's like over 120. It's like, you know, come on, I don't want to watch something over 120. It's like, you know, it's like.
I know. I don't know. I don't know if it's like old age, but like I look at runtime of movies now, and that's how I judge what I'm going to watch.
We do too. I'm like, how long is it? It's like, you know, it's an hour and 20 minutes. Okay, I'll watch it. It's 2 hours and forget about
it.
My wife and I have a phone code, and that's how we see how good something is. How long are you watching something before you take the phone out?
That's great. That's great.
And if you take it out more than once, it was okay. If you take it out like more than 5 times, it was a terrible movie.
Toby knows when I'm done with a movie. Like I won't say what it is, but we were watching one 2 nights ago, and I was just like, in 5 minutes, I was like, boom, light on, shining it at Toby. And the phone didn't go away because I was like, please turn this movie off. We still got a couple hours before I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah. So we started this playlist which features some of our guests' favorite songs. Could each of you share a song that made an impact on your life so we can add to the list?
Ooh, wow. I know mine. Mine is Pedestrian at Best by Courtney Barnett. That movie got us through Hellbender. We were just listening to that song on repeat while we were making this movie. So yeah.
Heck.
I'm going to go with Pay to Come by Bad Brains. That changed my life.
I loved, I'll always love Toxicity by System of a Down.
Okay. Look at picks.
Yeah. Brandon, I don't know if you were just about to say this, but like, again, like our guests have such eclectic tastes from each other. And even just with the 3 of you, the tastes are so varied. So I think this is like one of the questions we just started asking within our last 6 interviews, Brandon.
Yeah, we started it off with Tony Todd. So he started off the whole interview with a playlist. He has like a jazz type sound. And so it's just been kind of going everywhere. So it's just all over the place right now. So it's really cool. So for our listeners, you can find it on our playlist on the YouTube page and also on our Spotify account. So I'll add these tracks in. So it's sounding pretty good.
Yeah. Good playlist.
My son went on and picked out my songs right away, guys. I forgot to tell you that. He was like, "These are your 2 songs, Dad." I was like, "Oh, absolutely."
Brandon's fiance went on and picked out my songs right away, so I don't know what that says about me. It's like The Cure, Brand New, and then some random stuff. But anyways, so Hellbender, it's a wild ride. So I was curious if you guys wanted to just kind of tell us where some of the initial ideas for the film came up.
All right. Well, I'll tell you. Well, two things. One, we had the band Hellbender, but with the E's or sixes, before the movie, and we started to exploring. We started making some music videos, and we were making one for Black Sky, and was immediately just like really witchy, and we were like, oh, we got to explore this more and just make one big movie basically about jumping off from it. And then I also found out that my mom, who was in The Deeper You Dig, she plays the older woman that my character bilks like of money in The Deeper You Dig. She died like right before The Deeper You Dig came out, and she told me, she was like, I have something really serious I have to tell you. And I'm like, what can you tell me that can be more serious than the fact that you're about to leave this earth? And she's like, your dad was not your biological dad. And so I learned that my biological dad, who was wonderful, wonderful man, and is my dad, but that I had been donor conceived. So we were like, well, who's my dad? Who is my dad? And what if he's some weirdo, wacko axe murderer? And we just started having fun thinking about who my dad was. He ends up being just like a nice Jewish doctor, but that wasn't very cinematic. So we were like, what if he's the devil? And then we thought for a while we were going to make this movie called The Devil's Daughter. And then we were like, nah.
The devil is way bigger than our budget will ever be, and we were like, we are not going to tackle the devil and hell with like $500. So how about we just slice off the devil's toenail and make it a movie about that? And that's what Hellbender is.
The Hellbender, the devil's toenail.
That's what we was like, you guys, what do you think is a better title, The Devil's Toenail or Hellbender?
Oh, I really feel like you guys might have missed the mark on this one.
Dude, that's awesome. That's some shocking news. So just a little something here. I met my biological father when I was like 21, and I had suspicions for a long time, and my family confirmed it. He is not my actual biological father. I just found out. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So, like you had a double. So wait a minute. At 21, you thought you were seeing your biological father.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then later you find out that the guy that you thought that's not even him.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep. So heavy duty.
Yeah. It's like what?
Right.
And, my family dynamic is a lot different than most. So me and my mom are not going to have a conversation about it ever. So, but like that's a bombshell. So I can't imagine. I know what I was going through. I can't imagine what you were going through.
Well, yeah, I was kind of curious about that too, and not to get like, overly personal about it, but
cool.
because my father had an experience like that too. I didn't find out till a little bit later in life. Like he never knew his who his parents were. He was adopted when he was an infant, and I never knew that it really bothered him until later in life when I actually found some. I don't even know how I found it, to be honest with you. It was on the internet. He was kind of searching for his parents, and he didn't find them till he was in his late 60s or early 70s. He finally found out who his mother was, and it was, I think, a relief for him to figure it out, but it also didn't really fix anything because it wasn't, the news he got wasn't actually great for a lot of different reasons. And I just was thinking, like, for me, I didn't know that side of the family either. So it was kind of like an interesting, like, it's almost mysterious, I guess, when you find that out, like what was on that side. And I was wondering if like writing this story was kind of like catharsis for you in a way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was good kindling, to build this story about, genetics and can you hide from your genetics? And in case of our story in Hellbender, the mother really tries to starve her her nature, her genetics, you know, her DNA. When the daughter, when she realizes what her legacy is, she's like, fuck that, I want to celebrate being a hellbender, even if that means I'm like super powerful, you know, a step above humans in the food chain. And the mother wants to protect her. Yeah, it definitely helped inform our writing, and we wanted the audience to be able to question who's right, like who's sympathetic. Some would say the daughter is, some would say the mother is, and you can see why she would want to protect her daughter, because being a hellbender is pretty lonesome, brutal, powerful legacy to uphold.
Also, I mean, the thing about the Hellbender and Toby's story that just go hand in hand, they're the exact same, is Toby was told protective lies her whole life.
Yeah.
And so once those protective lies are exposed, that's so heavy. It was interesting being her lover and watching her have to deal. Now, Toby's a very stable, mellow person, so it's she can handle something like that. But all those protective lies still unravel every conversation she had with the dad that raised her. And then she has to ask herself all those questions about, what would it be like if I met my blood father? It's like, it's super heavy duty and it's very complex. And that's what that comes across in Hellbender, hopefully, is that the mother in Hellbender is telling her daughter very protective lies, thinking that she's protecting her daughter. In essence, is she protecting the daughter for herself? Or is she protecting the daughter for the daughter's protection? Or is she protecting the world from the daughter? And that's the exact same quandary that Toby's parents had raising her. Is like, who are we protecting here? Are we protecting the dad because he couldn't have a kid, so he had to be donor conceived, but we don't want anyone to know that? Are we protecting the mom because now has a child in her from another man? It's so complex. And it was amazing to watch Toby write this script about that. So boy, catharsis is too small of a word for it.
Well, just a quick note, so I actually discovered who my biological father was, and and 8 siblings. I'm the oldest of 8 half siblings.
Whoa.
And they're awesome.
Yeah.
They're so great. But I'm only like 2 months older than the next one. And It's funny, of all of them, of all 8 of us, I'm essentially the only one whose mother even told her. And this was on her deathbed that my mom told me. So you can see how the urge to protect not only the child, but probably the father, the non-biological father, who raised us, that urge is pretty strong.
That's crazy. That's really.
It ends up being a beautiful. I mean, it's kind of beautiful for me. It ended up being beautiful because I have this family. But it is crazy. It's crazy.
And I think it's crazy that even just we're having this conversation, and even like a few of us can even like have a relation to the story too, and in some kind of capacity, so other people can kind of see this and kind of understand that and make their own judgments off of it as they leave the film. So it's cool.
Yeah.
And Zelda, we've got to tell you something.
Hellbender Part 2.
Right, Hellbender. Let's just go with Hellbender Part 2 on that.
Well, we just completely did away with the dads in Hellbender, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
This is too heavy.
Yeah, I as a dad, I realized that my role in the family is pretty much non-existent. Everything is about the mother anyway. Like.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah, I taught my son to read. He went to a special school, so I drove him to and from for 5 years. He got up and graduated the 5th grade. Like, I helped him every day with his homework, and he's like, "I love you, Mom." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
What about me?
Like, see where I rank? So it's the way it goes, right? But speaking of Hellbender, we'll go back to the original reason you're here. It was a cool mythology that you had just kind of made, and you didn't actually I've never heard of a Hellbender. There's no mythology that I know that this was worked off of, and I was really curious as to how you guys came up with the whole mythology, and are you going to go even farther with it at some point?
Awesome. I can give the quick answer, and Toby is the one who really researched it. But we love nature. We're big campers. We're big hikers. We love being out in nature. And when you're out in nature, you know that there's a ton of hidden magic out there, but you just don't know how to ride it. You look at the algae in the water, and it's this color that you can't describe. You look at mushrooms, and they're red with white dots, and like you know that there's hidden magic in there. And so we wanted to have this being that had all the knowledge of hidden magic built in their DNA. And that's why the book looks for that child, because that knowledge is like the knowledge built in your DNA coming to fruition. And so that's why, like, if you notice in Hellbender, like, she hears the book calling to her, and that's basically just her DNA calling to her. But we needed something visual to show the audience that, like, her DNA was awakening and there's no stopping it. Toby did a lot of research, though, on mythological, historical people and magic.
Yeah, but more kind of just to get us in the mood, because it was really important for us not to follow many rules. Like we really wanted to create something, like you say, Joshua, it kind of just kind of original. Like, here we have this Hellbender. Let's decide what that is about. And so we, Izzy's character says to the ranger in the movie, she's like, oh, we're like a cross between a witch, a demon, and an apex predator. But she's just throwing him a bone and putting it in some very simple human terms for the poor human guy, to understand. But she knows, oh, we are like witch. That's like, if I can eat witches for breakfast, So we really, we wanted to create something really powerful, unapologetic, and original, but we did have a lot of fun coming up with like the spells and everything. We kind of wanted to think through a child's lens, like children who kind of play in the mud or even just scribble on things. In a way, that's a child's magic. That's a child's creativity. And a spell is a kind of creativity too, as you're using your intention to put something out into the world. So we tried to think as like a third grader when coming up with these spells, and it was super fun.
And one of the things that was important to us was finding out, well, where is their source of power? Like, where's their power line? And originally we loved that there was some famous character, mythological character from Egypt or something, that ate babies for power.
Lamia, the Libyan serpent goddess.
And so we were like, ooh, that's good. What could be? But then we were like, well, what could be worse than eating babies? Let's try to get worse than that. And one of the kids was like, puppies. And we were like, oh yeah, eating puppies. We should eat puppies. But then it was like, okay, stop. We need to figure out. And then we decided that it would be funny because witches are killed because of people's fear of womanly knowledge or womanly power. And so we just thought, oh, well, let's just turn that on its head, and that these people will feed on that fear that had killed them throughout history. And that's where they get their power. Because in fact, witches do get their power from fear. So we had fun with that.
I wanted to ask you, so there's these kind of like cut clips that you guys show, and there's a lot of like imagery that's happening in these. And I read that you guys were on a road trip and you would just get out because like the sky was cool, or there was like this cool landscape, and that you guys were in the Pacific Northwest during that time, right? What areas were you in, and like what specifically were you looking for? I know I just said a couple other things, but like what was it in mind that you were like, oh, this is it?
I'll answer part of it, and then Zelda, you take it away. We knew that we were going to have visions. We knew that a lot of the story would be driven by visions. So we went to Walmart and bought a bunch of black material, just so that we knew that like the mythological Hellbenders, whenever they were kind of reaching back into their history, they would wear these like black material so that it was very just like flowing in the wind. So whenever there was a storm or a desert or some kind of natural awesomeness, like we were near Yellowstone and we passed some bubbling tar pits or whatever it was, and the mist was coming out, and we were like, get out! Put on the black robes and we're going to film something. And we didn't necessarily know exactly what we were filming, but we knew that nature was supplying us with some ass-kicking acting, and all we had to do was just get in there and act with her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you say, Z?
Yeah, it was just cool traveling to all these monumental places because it really added to like the sacredness of the visions that Izzy was experiencing through the books. Because like these were places that she never would have experienced on her mountaintop, you know, in isolation. So it was really fun doing that. But also, we went a lot to the Pacific Northwest because when we were traveling, first of all, that's where Lulu was, and Lulu was acting as Amber in the film. And, you know, we really wanted to have her fun and bubbliness in the film. And so we went out there to go meet up with her, but we actually were social distancing when we were filming with her in Oregon. That was mostly in Manzanita, Oregon, and Port Townsend, Washington. And the great thing about those towns on the coast were that they had these beautiful green forests that kind of matched to the forests in the Catskills, and they were just incredible to shoot in. We'd go out and bike a lot and find these beautiful hidden spots that we just had to film.
When I read that you were from the Catskills, I was like, oh, it must have been filmed in the Catskills. But then I read that you guys were on that road trip, and I love Oregon. It's like one of my all-time favorite places. Couldn't say enough about it. But you're right, the forests there are just so green, and that like clicked right away. And you're right, I guess it could kind of be in both environments there. So that was beautiful scenery.
Thank you.
Speaking of beautiful, the cinematography itself and the camera angles and the camera shots were really well done.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of surprised when you guys were like, oh, we don't have training, we don't know what we're doing, but the cinematography looks amazing and your camera angles were great. Like it looks beautiful, like throughout the whole film. And I was really curious, is that like one person, or was that everybody's vision combined to make that cinematography happen?
Well, thank you so much, first of all. I mean, I do think most of it is like a combined vision, but from coming from The Deeper You Dig, it was pretty like static because we only had a tripod and our camera. And one of the things I love most growing up on movies is like movement in movies. So we got a lot of new technology. We got a steady cam, like a Ronin. We got a drone, which I was really excited about. And we also got a micro lens. So we kind of brought that into Hellbender, which I was really excited about. I learned how to control the drone, and that was our first time using it. And people seem to have really liked it. And we learned a lot. What do you guys think, John and Toby?
I think thanks for that compliment, because it means a lot to us, because it's one of the aspects of filmmaking that we just really love, is trying to paint really beautiful pictures. I think it's a combination of being in beautiful places and kind of keeping your heart and your mind open, that when nature says, I'm ready, your camera better be ready too. And so a lot of it is just that we're in some pretty spectacular spots. But it does mean a lot to us that you're enjoying it, because we try hard to paint pictures with the camera.
And it really is, these guys are being humble, but John and Zelda share the director of photography role. You know, they both kind of do that. We all know how to use the camera, but they're really great artists.
Thanks, Toby.
You're welcome.
Teamwork right there, keeping the positive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, what's the secret of marriage, you two, huh?
He's
I tell you,
sexy.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I tell you, but don't get us started. Otherwise, it's gonna be a pay-per-view, and Zelda's gonna have to check out.
Zelda's in the city. We're not here. So.
Sorry, Z.
No, they just pass out.
You know what's funny? I've been married 13 years, and sometimes it's like a roller coaster. You know, sometimes it's really awesome, and sometimes really not.
Sounds like life.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I think it's cool that you guys are like working together and stuff. I don't think I could ever work with my wife. I can barely live with her, and I love her to death. So,
You're not planning on having Miranda listen to this, are you?
I am very honest with my wife. Like, we want to move, and we are going to get separate bedrooms and separate bathrooms, his and hers, and we're going to live happily ever after in our separate bedrooms.
Sure.
It's funny when, like, we used to live in Los Angeles, and sometimes we'd take a drive in Malibu because that's really beautiful, and we'd always see the really huge houses, and we'd always be like, that's probably not the happiest marriage because it's like they have these monster houses. Like, Toby and I better have a good marriage because we live in a little house that we built. And it's great.
Yeah, we live in a little house too, but we need that's why we want separate.
I think you missed the point. Like, John built it, right?
Yeah,
you built the house.
Exactly. Yeah. We did build the house.
That's amazing.
Toby designed it and I built it. So
there you go.
Wow,
that's really awesome.
You guys are something else, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it does. If talking about movies, though, I think Toby and I and Zelda and Lulu, we all kind of, after this is our 7th movie that we've completed. Now we're working on our 8th, which is called When the Devil Roams. And like this 8th one is even easier. They're only getting easier because we do understand how vital each of us is to this little combat unit that we have. I mean, it really is a tiny little combat unit. Everybody's got to have each other's back. We know what each person's good at, and now it's a pretty well-oiled machine. And nobody's vying for each other's jobs here. Do you know what I mean? Like, we know when it comes to making sure that the story circle is full and complete. Toby's our girl. Do you know what I mean? And we know that, like, when it comes to finding the proper camera angles, that me and Z have a lot of conversations about how we're going to capture this. When it comes to flying a drone, it's only Z, and it's like, just do it, kid. I think that's something fun about, well, being a family making movies, but also it wouldn't matter whether it was like a blood family, even just a team of filmmakers that work together for a long amount of time. You just take steps for each other at some point.
Yeah. I just really admire the fact that you guys are like, let's make a movie, and you just go out and do it. Or, hey, we're going to start a band, and then you just do it. Hey, I'm going to build a house, and then you do it. It's like,
thank you.
That's awesome. Please tell me that some point down the road, we are going to see a version of the original version that you had in mind for Devil's Toenail. Will that happen when the timing is right, the budget's right? Will we see that version?
It's kind of interesting, because our newest film is called When the Devil Roams, and there's definitely going to be a little bit of cutting of toenails, or maybe we miss the toe and go a little deeper.
Yeah. And then a foot. So we're definitely cutting up the devil, and we've moved beyond the toenails. That's a really great point, Toby. Yeah. We're now cutting the devil at the elbow. So now we could be like, the devil's elbow. I think, hey, this is a franchise.
You should watch one of our first horror movie, though, called The Hatred, because there's actually a scene where John's character, who basically is the devil, eats his nail. Do you remember that, John?
Yeah.
So there seems to be a lot of connections here. We seem to love nails and the devil, so.
Sure.
Well, the devil does eat himself. I mean, that's the whole point. Like, that's if you think of drugs as being there's so many aspects of the devil that consume itself. So it is pretty cool.
So that original script that you had when you started to film, but then it kind of had to strip it down. Do you think that time has kind of passed, and Hellbender is kind of the vision you have now, and you're okay with that? Or do you think that will kind of resurface at some point and you'll want to kind of take that endeavor back on?
I've thought of trying to write a book about it because I like writing. I thought, maybe with the book, it's something I've thought about for like a young adult novel.
Yeah. Which means you'll do it because you said it out loud, and you'll
right.
what you guys do. You just do things. So So we'll be on the lookout for your book. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, here's a good question to throw back at you guys, because this is like a conversation that we'd be having in our car going to soccer practice. Exactly this, which is, what's your favorite movie about the devil? What do you guys say?
Oh, geez.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Asylum of the Damned.
Oh, I'll have to look at that. Now, why is it your favorite movie though? Like, tell me why they capture the devil so well.
Honestly, it was not so much the devil; it was more the demon. But
Okay.
it was just, it took place in the bottom of a senior center, and it was just a really, like, you know, the devil's just coming out and sucking the souls out of the senior citizens, and it was just a really well done. I mean, it was a $5 budget, but I don't know why, but the atmosphere was really cool. It looked really good. The acting, it was really good, and just everything about it just resonated. And the story was like, I had never seen a story like that. So I was like, wow, that's really good. Like, that's a really interesting story. So that's just, I just gravitate towards that, and that is my go-to. But no one's ever heard of it. Once again, it's a $5 basement buy, you know.
That's great. I have to watch it. I mean, you know, well, how about you other guys? What do you think?
I think just the one that. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
You can go.
All right. I was just gonna say the one that, like, I'm kind of having a brain fart, but like the one that comes to mind for me, like The Witch. I love, you know, I love everything about that film. First off, but just like, you know, like just the way it's kind of like speaking to you and how it manifests. I just really love that film. Yeah.
For me, growing up, you know, watching The Omen, just you know, just being young and then seeing Damien and just everything controlling, and then just, okay, that's the devil's baby. It was just like, all right, like, what's going on? And it was just like really creepy, and it just always made you think, like, okay, what's next? You know, so that was definitely one of the main movies that always stuck out to me.
I'm so with you. And see, for me, the Omen is, for me, the best devil movie, because they tackle this really interesting, because Damien is gonna come to rule the world, and if you if you think about books like Revelations and stuff that like to dabble in the devil, like, it's very close to the Omen, you know, and so I'm with you on that. Like, and that's a tough production.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's why we knew, like, when we really started thinking, like, okay, let's think about the movies that do the devil well. The Omen is top of the list for us. And it's like, holy shit, like, that's a tough one. That's very hard to do, production wise. But it's a fascinating subject because of Revelations and like the Book of John and stuff like that talk about the devil. It's something that would be fun to try to tackle.
But it's fun. It's cool too, because in The Omen and also in like Rosemary's Baby, I think you don't see the devil, but it's very much a presence that you're aware of and frightened of, you know, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
That was a really scary book.
Which one?
Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, I'll bet.
Oh, I never read the book.
I thought the book was better than the movie. It was really, like, actually creepy to read. So.
That's good advice. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm a big reader. You know, if you write your book, chances are I'll buy it. I'm just putting that out. I'm sitting in my library right now, so.
Well, our book will be at the $5 bottom basement bin. So.
That's awesome. So speaking of the devil, your next film is about the devil. Like, how much can you really tell us about your next movie, or is it like under wraps?
No, we can give you the quick synopsis. It's called When the Devil Roams, and it takes place in the 1930s about a family, a peculiar artistic serial killing family on the dying carnival circuit, and something really bad happens to the parents, and the daughter is left to pick up the pieces. And it's kind of a cross between Frankenstein and Bonnie and Clyde.
Sounds awesome.
Thank you.
When can we expect this?
So we're about. Oh, go ahead, Z.
No, yeah, I think we're like 70% done with it, and we need to end filming by around April because that's like when the leaves start budding. So, because this is like a fall winter movie, so I would say within a year, definitely.
You guys are going to be pretty busy, like publicity wise, with Hellbender, then leading up to this film.
Well, we hope so. I mean, we hope so. You know, whenever you're doing art, you always are in love with it, but you're not very objective. You're very subjective, and so this feels the Devil Roams. When the Devil Roams feels like we're just trying to keep up with it. It really feels like a movie that wants to be made. It's been quite easy. So we hope that it's as fun to audience members and to people out there as it seems to be to us. It's been incredibly cool. We have access to, the Catskills, number one, are a kind of beat up, wonderfully beautiful place, but they lend itself to the 30s because a lot hasn't changed since long time up here. And I grew up here in these houses that are old, like they're old hotels, and they're filled with kind of beat up old antiques, not fancy antiques. My dad has an old 31 Chevy. So we have all these beautiful old beat up things that are at our disposal. And I've been looking at them my whole life, and so has Zelda. And so they're just there to be used. They've been asking to be used all this time, and now they're out there being used. And so it has a real nasty, gritty feel. Again, I say, for that nasty, gritty feel, we're chasing the Golden Glove. Yeah. Don't watch it. I didn't recommend it.
I'm watching it. It's happening.
All right. So that's awesome. We was able to take this time and kind of get to know you guys and just kind of go through everything you guys been through, all the projects you've been working on. And before I go, I just want to say, Zelda, congratulations on following your father's footsteps and becoming a model. What was it like working for Gucci, straight off your modeling career,
It was actually insane. It was incredible. And thank you so much. I honestly couldn't believe it. Like when I was in LA, I wasn't believing it until it was happening, and then it happened, and I was like, wait, did that happen? I wasn't sure. And it's so cool just hearing John's stories about being a model, and I really hope I can have some fun stories like his, because it really seems that he had a fun time doing it. So yeah, well, thank you so much though. That's so nice.
No problem.
It was hilarious when she sent the pictures from LA and she's standing next to Macaulay Culkin. And it was just like, Z, do you know who that is? And she's like, I think so.
No, we were in like rehearsal, and there was this dude like 5 spots behind me, and I look back, I'm like, man, do I recognize this dude? And then I'm like, oh my God. He was just like ripping his jewel in the line, and I was like, oh my God, that's him. Wow.
Oh, that's wild. That is wild. So you guys have been absolutely amazing, and I just want to thank you guys so much for taking this time with us and, just spending this evening with us to talk about your films and all your projects and everything. This has been really enjoyable for us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
And if we get to Providence, or if Zelda gets into RISD, maybe we can take you guys out.
Yeah, or if you guys come down here, we'll cut your guys' arms off. So
Definitely.
We'll just wait. We'll wait for you. So so everybody, Hellbender. Well, actually, I want you guys to be able to tell. Can you guys tell everybody when Hellbender's coming out and where they're going to be able to find it?
Yeah, Hellbender's coming out on Shudder on February 24th.
And our album's coming out in June, and it's on Ship to Shore, and it's going to be 23 songs, every song from the movie, and then some extras that hit the floor.
Okay. And your book is coming out in January of 2023?
Yes.
All right. We'll look out for it.
I've got it on pre-order.
Yes. Yeah. All right, everyone. So thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy Hellbender, and everyone have a good night.
Thanks for inviting us, you guys. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon, Joshua, and Dave.
Thank you.